I had a chance to catch up with Steve Merlo, who is the director and producer behind the brand new Texas Chainsaw Massacre fan film, The Sawyer Massacre. It seems both of us are avid fans of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre films, and we also have quite a few opinions on the rest of the series. Welcome back to ML Miller Frights, a part of the Kings of Horror Network. I'm ML Miller. I wanted to start out by reminding folks to give this video a like, share with your buddies across the electronic superhighway, click subscribe to this channel, and don't forget to ring that bell for notifications. Please get the word out to new folks so we can make this channel bigger and better. Steve Merlo is directing and producing a Texas Chainsaw Massacre fan film called The Sawyer Massacre. There are a couple of days left for you to back this project on Indiegogo, and I'm going to provide the link down below as to how you can do that. I sat down with Steve for a little chat, and it went a little something like this. I wanted to welcome Steve Merlo. You are directing and producing a new Texas Chainsaw Massacre fan film. Tell me about yourself. Tell me what's your background and what first got you into this whole project.
Sure. Thanks for having me, by the way.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
My background's actually in music more than anything else. I worked professionally as a live musician for quite a number of years, but filmmaking was always kind of a passion of mine, and it's just something I never did until I was in my 30s. I'm 40 now, but yeah, in my early 30s, I started thinking more about getting into filmmaking. I met my wife when I was 32. And she said, do it, just do it. I was writing scripts. I had all kinds of stuff I was writing, but wasn't doing anything with it. So it just occurred to me, maybe I should just try to do it myself. Never went to film school. There was a time I contemplated it, but just to learn more and stuff like that. But through a lot of advice I got from people that went to film school, it's not really worth the price you pay. Or at least here, it's about $50,000, and you may as well make your own film for that much.
Sure.
Exactly.
Sure.
So,
And where are you out of? Where do you live?
I'm in Western Canada in a little town called Kelowna. I shouldn't say little. It's kind of like a medium-sized town. It's a small town that's slowly becoming a big town.
Okay. Well, I guess that's a great lead in. I'm wondering how are you making Canada look like Texas, I guess, or is there? I've been there a few times, but I don't know if it's exactly a Texas landscape. How are you
Depends on where you
tackling that?
go. It
Okay.
definitely depends on where you go, but I should mention that our goal is to raise enough that we can actually film it in Texas.
Oh, okay.
But we're still very, very far from that goal. I do still believe it's quite possible to hit that kind of a goal with our crowdfunding campaign because we have a lot of time. We're not filming till next summer. This will just probably be the first of two crowdfunding campaigns that we do. So we have lots of time, but we have to hit about 25K before I can even feasibly go to Texas. But that's very possible, and even that is at a reduced cost simply because I've made some connections in Texas that have probably saved me around $10,000.
Oh, great.
So my Texas budget really would be about 35K, but I can get it down to 25, luckily. But
Okay.
long ways to go. We've only hit about 3K in our campaign so far, which is barely enough to even make the film. In fact, we can make it here and nobody's going to get paid, is how that would.
Why did you decide to start this endeavor as a Texas Chainsaw Massacre fan film?
It was probably the very first idea I had as a writer. Right after the 2003 remake came out, I'll say this: I was very excited because I actually thought it was going to be outstanding. I actually thought it was going to outdo the original when I saw the TV spots and everything. It just really felt like they took it to the next level. And then when I saw the film, I was like first in line to go see that movie when with me and my buddy were there. It's hard to explain, but like the beginning of the film, set those expectations even higher, because I don't know what your feelings are, but the beginning of that film really set it up to be like super disturbing level, which was what made the original so great. It was really disturbing. It was scary and it was disturbing, and none of the sequels really did that for me. So I got that feeling right off the bat with the remake, and unfortunately, the rest of the film kind of let me down. Not I won't say the whole film let me down, but a lot of elements of that film really let me down, and I just started to brainstorm in my head what I would do if I was doing it, and it took me all the way to this point where I'm at now, where I finally had the script that with a lot of help from fellow writers in the industry, I finally got the script exactly where I want it, where I know it needs to be, where it's not copying the original, but still has that disturbing element that I feel like all the other films are missing.
Yeah.
But in a new way, because again, I don't want to copy the original exactly, right? So it started there.
Yeah.
It started with that film, and that film is the remake is now what, 17 years old. so
Yeah. Yeah. And we've had
so it's been a long journey.
a couple more even worse ones have been along since then.
Oh
So
yeah. So I think you and I agree on
yeah,
that.
yeah. Well, I mean, I always find something kind of cool in all of the sequels and remakes, but I
Sure.
agree. No one has kind of achieved that level of weirdness and just oddity, and it was as if you were transported to a completely different world, and these kids were as well, in that film. So yeah, it's awesome that you're able to recognize that and go for that in this film. Lately there's been a lot of fan films that have been come out, and they've been pretty big releases. I'm There have been a couple of Friday the 13th ones are actually coming out this month, and a couple more that are in the down the pipeline. And I've seen a couple of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre ones. Have you seen those?
I've seen a couple. I've seen a few Texas Chainsaw Massacre fan films. One of them I actually kind of liked. I feel like it still needed more, but at the same time, I could say, boy, I actually like that fan film. There's another one I saw recently, suggested by a guy who interviewed me on YouTube to go
Hmm.
see it. It looks very polished, and it looks like they had a bit of a budget for it, but the story didn't get me at all, and
Yeah.
it actually had the biggest cop out ending I've ever seen. So I won't mention it
Uh,
because I don't want to
sure.
disrespect people, but let's just say it had this really big cop out ending
Uh,
that felt like they just didn't know what to do, so they said, "Okay, let's do this, and people will think it's cool." And but yeah, to me that it was, yeah. I'll mention the one that I actually liked though, because I've actually been chatting with the director of that film, and he seems like a really nice guy, and he's from Texas, and they filmed their short film there in Texas, and that's Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The last, I always forget the name of this wrong. The last Rollin' Roundup Grill,
okay.
something like that.
Okay.
Go check that one out. It's pretty cool, actually. It was well done. It's got that gritty feel,
Hmm.
which I like. It
Yeah.
doesn't have the best acting. It feels like it needs a little bit more added to it, but at the same time, it's got the feel. It had the
Great.
right feel to it, and I think that's something that's been missing from a lot of these films, from any film in the franchise, not just fan films, but the big studio productions seem to be not getting that right. It's
Yeah.
yeah.
What's the exact title of your short or your film going to be?
My film, which is not a short, by the way, it's a feature
Oh,
length.
it's going to be a feature? Oh, great.
It will
Okay.
be a feature length. It's called The Sawyer Massacre.
Can you give me a basis of the story, or is that under wraps?
There's a synopsis online. I can,
Okay.
because I'm not good at memorizing these things. I'll see if I can get it up here and read it to you. Well, we don't want to spoil too much, but needless to say, there's some new layers to it, and it really is a totally different story. We didn't want to remake the original. We didn't want to feel like the same story with five kids in a van driving through Texas just happened to
Yeah.
stumble
Yeah.
across this place. I wanted it to feel a little bit different
Mhm.
and take it from a different perspective. So our summary is, while recovering from the loss of someone close, Jimmy's friends bring him to the Texas countryside to escape city life. In need of supplies for their cabin, they ascend to a gas station where they are directed to find their supplies at an isolated farmhouse. The property is not as it seems. They find themselves hunted by a cannibalistic psychopath with an arsenal of violent tools at his disposal. In the end, any that do escape his clutches will wish they hadn't. So,
Cool. Very cool.
they get an
And
idea.
yeah, yeah. What to you stands out in a Texas Chainsaw Massacre film? Is there, I mean, obviously chainsaws, cannibalism, Leatherface, things like that. But there have been various other people approaching this sort of project, and some people have Leatherface as kind of like a lone person out there, just kind of doing his thing. Personally, I love the family aspect of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I think that sets it apart from some of the other slasher movies. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I do like the family aspect of it. However, I think I like them in certain doses, you know. Our film is almost with our film I try to almost make you wonder who's actually a family member. You know, give add more mystique to it rather than give everything away. You might even
Mhm.
be like saying, "Boy, I wonder if that's the cook from the original," or I wonder if that's the hitchhiker. You know, well, the hitchhiker might stick out a little bit more, but you
Sure.
know, you'll probably say, "Oh, that's definitely the hitchhiker." You know, anybody who's got a big birthmark on his face, it's got to be
Yeah.
him, right? But you know, have that sort of idea, like, "Ooh, I wonder if he's good or I wonder if he's bad." You know, that kind of thing. So it's they're all there, but they're in certain doses. And again, I don't want to spoil anything, but
Okay.
we'll say Leatherface has a relationship with one particular family member that's pretty strong. But I'll leave it at that. I won't tell you which family member it is, but it's you definitely get a little bit of a new layer from Leatherface, I think, because of this. And I think it was neat. I think it's needed. It's subtle, but it's needed to make sure that that it works with the original. I guess you could say that it's
Sure.
not an origin story, but you get something added that'll work well with the original. I think because our film does act as, I don't want to say prequel, but as a cause it takes place before the original. I guess a precursor or something like that to the original.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Great. And so, how did you go about casting this film, or have you gone and done that? Okay.
I've casted in Texas, done my full
Okay.
Texas cast, other than the role of Grandpa, which I wanted to leave open just in case I could possibly get John Dugan to do it, because
Oh wow,
voice.
that'd
He
be
did
great.
a voiceover for our trailer actually.
Cool.
If you haven't seen our trailer, John Dugan is voicing a younger grandpa in our trailer, which is really cool because we've never heard John Dugan speak as grandpa before. So that was a pretty cool thing to have him do. But he does have some obligations that sort of prevent him from being in the film, but I don't want to I want to still leave that role open if I can. So I did cast every role in Texas other than the role of grandpa, but they're all nobody's under contract at this point, so it could be subject to change,
Sure.
especially if we don't have enough money to film in Texas. We might have to film here in Canada,
Okay.
which we do have some good spots in Canada that could act as Texas. Our trailer was filmed in Canada, so and a
Okay.
lot of people actually thought it was Texas. So
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, the trailer was really impressive. I really liked what I saw there, and it prompted me to kind of reach out to you and want to talk because it definitely felt like a legit movie rather than some of the other stuff that you sometimes see of just, you know, kids putting on masks and fighting in the backyard. You
yeah.
got that style, but then you also have like the full-on production, which is great to see. It's I love the fact that fans are taking it into their own hands and kind of doing it themselves. What kind of legal things do you have to kind of watch in making a film like this?
Well, I definitely can't make any money off of it.
Yeah.
That's sort of the big thing, which is okay with which I totally understand that. Realistically, it's good to get the rights holders' permission. I've reached out to them, but never heard back. But
Mhm.
it's good to at least try to get their permission. But it's nothing that's it's most likely not something that's going to come back to bite you legally, but it could,
Hmm.
Um, obviously, if we actually raise like $1 million to make this film, we could probably hear hear from their legal department that we're going to raise anywhere close to that, though. So,
Well, you never know. You
but
never know. Let's be
it's
hopeful for you.
so. I mean, anybody making a fan film that you want to make on a professional level, do at least try to reach out to the people that own the rights to the film. I made my attempt. I didn't hear back, but and they're making another one in Bulgaria right now, so they probably have their hands full anyways.
Yeah, yeah. What do you think of? Have you heard some of the news that's coming out of that shoot at all? Or
Yeah, I have.
yeah,
It doesn't sound good, to be honest with you. It sounds like it's a studio made film, and
yeah,
yeah, and it's not a filmmaker's vision. And I mean, even I almost wonder on a lot of things. Like even the writer he doesn't have, that's his first screenwriting credit. So I
hmm,
almost wonder if it was just a somebody depended on if it goes bad sort of thing. It's who knows who
yeah,
actually writing the script, and I feel like they're just hired a filmmaker they can bully around, and I don't know. I could be wrong on that. I really hope it's good. I
yeah. I
hope it
do
will
too.
be a good film, but because I'm always rooting for every film that comes out in the franchise to actually be good. But I've been so disappointed so many times that I don't get my hopes up, and it doesn't sound like this one's going to be very good. I honestly don't feel like a 60-year-old Leatherface really is going to work, but I don't
Yeah.
know. You
I
never
mean,
know.
it sort of worked in Don't Breathe, and I guess it is Fede Alvarez doing that sort of thing where he has an older villain, but at the same time, you're right. I think that just from the small news we've heard out of Bulgaria, just that the firing of the original directors and the addition of the new director, and just the experience of some of the other people, it does seem like it's being put together as a response to the success of Halloween rather than a passion project like what you're doing. It's too bad fans with talent like you that actually understand the essence of those types of films don't get a shot to do that sort of thing. Is that your hopes coming out of this movie to maybe someday get a shot at doing this?
That's always a good hope. It's something to strive for. But at the end of the day, at the end of the day with this film, I want to make the fans happy. And you know what? You're not going to make everybody happy because you know
Sure.
what? Every film in the franchise has its fan base. And I can honestly say I'm not going to try to please all those fans because then I'll be sacrificing my vision.
Sure.
And as much as I know people love Chop Top from part two,
Hmm.
I hated him.
Yeah.
It's just it's just a personal thing, and Chop
Yeah.
Top has nothing to do with my film, and those people that love Chop Top are gonna not want to watch my film, and that's fine. It is what it is. You can't please everybody, but I know that there's a strong fan base for what we're doing. Even some people I think that don't realize that this is going to be for them, they're going to find out that it is them. There's a lot of people out there that love the original so much that they just can't stand to see new films being made because it tarnishes the original. My
Yeah.
response to that is simply it doesn't really tarnish the original. It tarnishes the franchise, I guess. It makes the franchise look bad. And, Leatherface has kind of become a joke over the years. It's like, he's kind of more laughable now than he was with the first movie because he was so scary in the first one. And just the
Sure.
idea of Leatherface alone should be enough to make something pretty scary, but he's kind of looked at as a joke now, and I think people
Yeah.
don't like that. So they see anytime another film gets made, it's another joke film, and I'm not laughing, and I'm not
Yeah.
laughing either. I truly want to bring back the scary Leatherface.
Cool.
Leatherface that we don't know what his real motive truly is. We know that he's a cannibal, but needless to say, there's a bit of a reveal at the end of our film,
Cool.
and it's going to be subtle, so you're going to think you know what it is, but you might be able to you might be able to think it's something else too. If you're a positive mind thinker, you'll think the positive rather than the negative, but
Sure. Well, so after you finish this Indiegogo campaign, you said that you might have another one further on down the line. Is that correct?
Yeah, probably at the beginning of March.
Okay. And what's like the schedule and the time frame as far as shooting the film, finishing the film, and beyond?
Well, if we have to shoot here in Canada, I'll have to shoot it in July of 2021,
Okay.
because we need it hot enough to actually pass as Texas. And
Hmm.
believe it or not, we shot our trailer here in Canada in late September of
Hmm.
2019. So that around this time, just and it's not very hot. We were applying fake sweat to everybody, you know, in the color grading. The guy that did the color grading really had to do things to make it look like it was hotter than it actually was. And it worked. Hey, it worked. It's the things you can do with color grading, I guess.
Sure.
It's not my forte, mind you, but no, I would have to shoot it in July just to get as much heat as possible. So that'll only give us a couple months of pre-production once our second Indiegogo campaign is done. If the Indiegogo campaign goes well, though, we can actually film in Texas. And if we shoot in Texas, we're going to wait till September. So we have an extra couple months of pre-production.
Great, great. It sounds like a really interesting project, and from just what I saw in the trailer, I definitely think that you have that eye to actually sort of bring something new and also capture that old feel of the original. What was it like for you when you first saw the first time you ever saw Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Do you remember
Ooh.
that?
Well, when I was a little, like really little kid, like we're talking 6 or 7, I had just
Hmm.
seen like little clips, right? And they were
Yeah,
enough to just freak the heck out of me. It just
yeah.
looked,
I
I didn't want to see anymore. I didn't actually see the full film till I was about 12.
Yeah, I think I saw the first time I saw it was in Terror in the Isles, where they had those tiny little clips in that movie. Did you ever see that movie, Terror in the
No, I
Isles?
didn't. I didn't.
It basically just showed little clips of all kinds of just movies, and this was the
Oh,
mid
okay.
80s. I think it's just being released on video because they never had the rights to all of the different films to be released in one movie, and so it's just being released. They had a Leatherface section in there, or a Texas Chainsaw
Hmm.
Massacre section in there, and this was before even the sequel came out, and it just blew me away, and I knew that I had to see it, and I was way too young as well to see
Yeah.
that. But what was that like seeing it for the first time?
I didn't fully get it at the time, but I knew that there was something very disturbing about it, very real about it, and I think that was enough for me to say, "Boy, this is one heck of a film." I didn't get a lot of the subtle stuff. I don't think I fully understood the cannibalism aspect of it when I was 12. It's
Hmm.
something I had to uh, to understand later, but eventually did. And it just, the more you actually understand about the film, about it being like a product of its time and it actually having these reflections on the social climate of that time,
Hmm.
all the misery that was going on in the world at that time, the more you can actually appreciate that film for what it, all the subtle little messages it actually has in it about the world,
Hmm.
and about brainwashing, the government brainwashing, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's very strong when you look at it in that way. And I try to do little things like that with my script, but because our script isn't really, our film isn't going to be a product of its time. It takes place in the '60s. I had to find some parallels, and there's a
Hmm.
couple good parallels I was able to find with that time period, with our time period. Obviously, with COVID-19, there's a pretty
Sure.
significant. Even though I wrote the script before COVID-19 even hit, it
Yeah,
wasn't hard for me to go back to it and actually find little things that make sense with it.
definitely. You're kind of a part of the way on their way to reach the goal right now. What do you want to tell people to get out and support you guys?
Well, right now we're just $125 off of our minimum goal,
Okay.
and that's Canadian dollars, so it's I think it's under $100 American is what that would come to. Just
Okay.
off of our minimum goal, that is, for making the film. With that, it's a low production value, though. I want to keep that in mind. The more money we raise, the more money we can put into production value. Good actors, good special effects, good props. We want to have old cars in this. But at our budget right now, finding cars from pre '60s is going to be a little bit tough. We can find old
Sure.
vehicles, obviously, and make it look okay. And some people are okay with that. I mean, geez, even the remake had a lot of stuff like that. The remake had a 90s, he was using a 90s chainsaw in that, not even close to the time period, but nobody notices that kind of stuff. So I mean,
Hmm.
it's not essential, but I'd like to be able to do that. I'd like to have a 50s chainsaw in this. I've even found one online that is like really awesome. But we've got a 70s chainsaw if we have to use that. So I mean, I'd rather not. I'd rather use the 50s chainsaw. The more money we raise, the more money we can put into doing that kind of stuff.
Cool.
It's all icing on the cake at this point, as far as I'm concerned. And if we somehow get to that $25,000 mark, then we're going to Texas. And who doesn't want to see a Texas Chainsaw Massacre film actually filmed in Texas? I know I do. I
Yeah.
can't believe they're shooting in Bulgaria.
Me
So
neither.
all I can say is help us get there. Help
It,
us get to that point.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely think that if you're looking for the type of Texas Chainsaw Massacre that you want to see, you got to go to these fan films because that's where the passion lies, I think. And so
Exactly.
I wish you the best of luck with this project. I really think that from what I've seen so far, it looks fantastic, and I just hopefully I can get the word out to some of my viewers to actually come in, donate, try to help back you guys and help get this thing made. It seems like a really great thing, and you seem like a person, the person to do it too. Is you have a lot of passion
Oh,
behind it.
thanks.
So yeah,
I'll
yeah,
never claim to be the best filmmaker out there or anything, but I do believe that I'm the right person to make a Texas Chainsaw Massacre film. And I can't explain it. I don't know if I can convince anybody, but I do have a vision that's going to be disturbing. And I want people to remember that word because it hasn't happened for 46 years now.
hmm,
A disturbing Texas Chainsaw Massacre film. And I can promise that I can do that. That's the one thing I
fantastic.
can promise.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing this interview with me. I really
Thanks for having me.
appreciate you taking the time to do it. And yeah, best of luck to you. And it's called what's the title of it and where can
The
we get it?
Sawyer Massacre. You can find it on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Follow us on all that social media stuff. You can follow my YouTube channel, Steve Merlo. Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, we're
Great.
on all that stuff.
Best of luck to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thanks, Mark.
Be sure to check down below for links to Steve Merlot's YouTube page, his Facebook and Twitter pages for the Sawyer Massacre, as well as a link to the Indiegogo page for the Sawyer Massacre. I really want to thank Steve for taking the time to talk with me, and I wish him all the luck in the world on this Indiegogo. It looks like a really cool project, and I hope people will back it. That'll be it for today. If you like this video, please pound that thumbs up button. Share this video with your social media addicted pals. If you're looking for written reviews, you can find them on mlmillerwrites.com. Don't forget I have 2 new horror comic book trade paperbacks for you to look for. Grave Trancers is out right now, and Pirouette, collecting never-before-published issues, will be out in late November, early December. Diamond order code APR 201712. And be sure to subscribe to this channel and ring that bell for alerts to be the first to see my future videos. Thanks so much for your time, and take care.
You're doomed to live the life you're meant to be, stuck inside your reality.